Across the sacred southern land of India lies a mystery older than recorded history. 5 ancient temples dedicated to Lord Shiva, positioned across hundreds of kilometers in a near-perfect straight line. A line so precise, so intentional, so mathematically flawless, that even today's satellite technology stands in awe. These temples weren't placed randomly. They were positioned according to a cosmic blueprint, a secret that bridges astronomy, geology, spiritual science, and divine geometry. 5 temples, 5 elements, 5 forces of creation, and one celestial alignment that modern experts still struggle to decode. How did ancient builders achieve such precision without aerial mapping, surveying tools, modern mathematics, or technology? What guiding knowledge did they possess? Were they architects, or astronomers, or something more? And here is the biggest question of all. Is this alignment simply architectural brilliance? Or is it a coded message about the structure of the universe itself, an energy map hidden in plain sight? Welcome to the mystery of the Pancha Bhoota Sthalam, the 5-element temples of Shiva, where stone breathes, water speaks, fire dances, air vibrates, and space dissolves into infinity. This is not just history. This is a riddle encrypted across time. Let's decode the design behind the divine. In the ancient language of Sanskrit, Pancha means 5, Bhuta means elements, and Sthala means sacred place. Together, Pancha Bhoota Sthalam means the 5 sacred abodes of the 5 elements. But this idea goes far beyond temples or geography. According to ancient Hindu philosophy, everything that exists, from distant galaxies swirling in space to the silent rhythm of a human heartbeat, is composed of 5 fundamental elements. These are not merely physical substances. They are cosmic principles, forces that shape matter, consciousness, and life itself. Prithvi, earth is solidity. It is stability, endurance, and nourishment, the ground beneath our feet, and the strength within us. Appu, water is fluidity. It is emotion, adaptability, and purification, the force that flows, heals, and sustains all life. Agni, fire is transformation. It is energy, illumination, and awakening, the power that converts darkness into light, and ignorance into wisdom. Vayu, air is movement. It is breath, circulation, and life force itself, invisible yet essential, without which nothing can exist. And Akasha, space is the subtlest of all. It is infinity, the silent field in which all forms arise, exist, and dissolve. Together, these 5 are the very architecture of creation, and presiding over them is Lord Shiva, the Mahadeva, not merely a god of destruction, but the supreme consciousness that governs balance, rhythm, and transformation. In Shaivite thought, Shiva does not stand apart from the elements, he becomes them. It is believed that Shiva manifested through each of these 5 cosmic principles, and that these manifestations were anchored on earth in 5 sacred temples, each embodying one element. These temples were not built only for worship. They were conceived as living representations of the universe itself, places where the human being could encounter earth, water, fire, air, and space, not as concepts, but as direct experience. Together, these 5 shrines form the Pancha Bhoota Sthalam, a sacred map where philosophy turns into stone, where cosmology becomes geography, and where the universe reveals itself not in the sky above, but right here, on earth. What truly elevates the Pancha Bhoota Sthalam from sacred tradition to astonishing mystery is not symbolism alone, but geometry. When modern researchers overlaid the locations of these 5 temples onto satellite maps, an extraordinary pattern emerged. 3 of the temples, Chidambaram, Kanchipuram, and Srikalahasti, fall on the exact same longitudinal line, 79 degrees and 41 minutes east. A near-perfect straight line, stretching across hundreds of kilometers. This is not approximation. This is precision, and the mystery deepens. The remaining 2 temples, Thiruvannamalai and Thiruvanaikaval, are not scattered randomly. They are positioned in carefully measured relation to this central axis, as if completing a larger design. Thiruvannamalai, the temple of fire, lies almost at the midpoint of this sacred line, like a blazing heart anchoring the system. Thiruvanaikaval, the temple of water, rests slightly to the south, balancing the axis as if responding to an unseen cosmic equation. Together, they form a layout that feels less like coincidence and more like intentional design. Now pause and consider the timeline. These temples were conceived and constructed thousands of years ago, long before telescopes could track stars, long before satellites could map the Earth, long before GPS could calculate longitude with decimal precision. And yet, the alignment exists, so we are forced to ask, how did ancient builders achieve such accuracy? What tools did they use? What knowledge guided their measurements? This was not the work of blind faith alone. It suggests a civilization that combined deep devotion with an advanced understanding of astronomy, geometry, geography, and subtle energies. These temples were not placed at random. They were positioned as part of a vast spiritual blueprint, a deliberate network of sacred sites designed to resonate with the earth itself, a map not just of land, but of consciousness, a system meant to maintain harmony between the human being and the cosmos, between inner awareness and universal order. And the more closely we examine this alignment, the clearer one truth becomes. The ancients were not merely building temples. They were encoding a cosmic message in stone, a message we are only beginning to understand. Let us now travel, not just across geography, but across the very building blocks of existence. One by one we step into these sacred shrines to uncover their legends, architecture, and deeper symbolism, and to understand how each temple embodies an element of the cosmos itself. Our journey begins where all life begins, with Earth. The Temple of Earth, Ekambareswarar Temple, Kanchipuram. In the ancient city of Kanchipuram, revered for centuries as a center of learning, devotion, and sacred architecture, stands a temple that breathes the stillness and strength of the earth itself. This is the Ekambareswarar Temple, where Lord Shiva is worshipped as Ekambareswarar, the Lord beneath the sacred mango tree, the embodiment of Prithvi, the earth element, the legend of devotion and endurance. Ancient tradition tells us that goddess Parvati once wished to experience Shiva not as a celestial consort, but as a devotee bound by human limitations. Beneath an ancient mango tree, she shaped a Shiva lingam from simple sand, fragile, impermanent, and vulnerable. As she entered deep penance, the nearby Vegavati river swelled and flooded the land. The waters rose, the currents raged, the sand lingam stood on the brink of dissolution. In that moment, Parvati did not flee. She embraced the lingam, shielding it with her own body, choosing devotion over safety, faith over fear. Moved by this act of unwavering love, Shiva appeared before her and granted divine union. The message was eternal. True devotion, rooted in humility and perseverance, can withstand even the fiercest forces of nature. A temple carved in stillness. Spread across more than 25 acres, the Ekambareswarar temple unfolds like a stone mandala. Vast courtyards open to the sky, a majestic 1,000-pillared hall, towering gopurams etched with myth and memory, and a southern gateway rising nearly 200 feet. Among the tallest temple towers in India, every step within the temple feels deliberate. Every pillar seems grounded. Every silence feels ancient. Here, earth is not a metaphor. You feel it. In the cool granite beneath your feet, in the weight of the stone walls, in the shade of trees older than dynasties. This temple teaches the first lesson of the Pancha Bhoota journey. Before one can rise, one must first be grounded. Earth represents stability, patience, nourishment, and endurance, the foundation upon which all spiritual growth rests. And as we stand firmly rooted in Prithvi, the journey naturally begins to flow. Because where earth exists, water soon follows. From the grounded stillness of earth, our journey now flows southward, to Thiruvanaikaval, near the ancient city of Tiruchirappalli. Here stands a temple unlike any other, a shrine where water does not symbolize life. It lives. This is the Jambukeswara temple, the sacred embodiment of Appu, the element of water, the living mystery of the sanctum step inside the innermost sanctum. And you witness something extraordinary. Beneath the Shiva Lingam, a natural underground spring continuously rises. No matter how much water is removed, it returns. Unceasing, unexplainable, eternal. It is as though the earth itself breathes through this shrine, inhaling silence, exhaling sacred water. Even today, no definitive scientific explanation fully accounts for this phenomenon. The legend of humility and grace. Ancient lore tells us that goddess Parvati, in a moment of playful pride, mocked Shiva for his silent meditation. To guide her back to inner stillness, Shiva sent her to earth, not as a goddess, but as a seeker. At this very spot, beneath a sacred naval tree, Parvati formed a Shiva Lingam, not from stone or sand, but from water, drawn from the sacred Kauveri river. Here, she worshipped Shiva as Jambukeswara, and through devotion and surrender, received his grace as Akhilandeswari, she who rules all worlds through wisdom. The lesson was subtle, yet profound. Water does not resist, it yields, and in yielding, it prevails. Architecture that flows like water. The temple's design mirrors the very nature of its element. 5 concentric enclosures, symbolizing layers of consciousness. The outermost wall stretches over a mile, built over centuries by Chola, Pandya, and Nayak kings. Long corridors that feel endless, like rivers without banks inside. Sound behaves differently. Chants echo softly. Bells resonate deeply, and everywhere the gentle rhythm of dripping water reminds the pilgrim. Life is movement. Life is renewal. Life is flow. The symbolism of water. Here, water is purity, washing away ego. Water is devotion, seeking the lowest place. Water is surrender, yet powerful enough to carve mountains. The Jambukeswara temple teaches us a vital truth of the Pancha Bhoota journey. Strength is not always rigid. Sometimes, true power lies in softness. And as water flows onward, it prepares the soul for the next transformation. Because when water meets resistance, fire is born. From the flowing surrender of water, the journey now ascends into fire, the element of transformation, revelation, and awakening. In the sacred town of Thiruvannamalai, rising against the horizon like a silent sentinel, stands the Arunachaleswara temple, the eternal home of the Agni Lingam. This is not merely a temple, it is the beating heart of Tamil Saiva tradition, a place where myth, mountain, and flame merge into one living reality. The cosmic revelation of fire. Ancient scriptures recount a moment that shook the very foundations of creation. Once, Brahma and Vishnu, the gods of creation and preservation, were locked in a dispute over supremacy. To dissolve their pride, Shiva appeared between them as a colossal pillar of fire, a blazing column with no beginning and no end. Brahma transformed into a swan and soared upward, searching for the summit. Vishnu became a boar and plunged downward, seeking the base. They searched endlessly. They failed. In that humbling realization, truth dawned. Shiva is beyond form, beyond measure, beyond comprehension. He is infinity itself. This divine pillar of fire is believed to have solidified as Arunachala Hill. Not a mountain symbolizing Shiva, but Shiva himself, in still form. The living flame of Arunachala. That cosmic fire is not confined to legend. Every year, during the sacred festival of Kartigai Deepam, a massive flame is lit atop Arunachala Hill. As night falls, the fire erupts into the sky, visible for tens of kilometers. Millions gather in silence. No chants, no rituals, just fire and awe. For devotees, this is not spectacle. It is darshan, the vision of pure consciousness blazing against darkness. The flame represents Jnana Agni, the fire of awareness that burns away ignorance and illuminates truth. A temple forged in flame and stone, spread across nearly 10 hectares. The Arunachaleswara temple is among the largest Shiva temples in India. 4 towering gopurams guard the cardinal directions. Massive stone corridors echo centuries of devotion. Walls carved with stories of gods, sages, and seekers, built and expanded over centuries by Chola and Vijayanagara rulers. The temple stands as a monument not just to craftsmanship, but to inner transformation. Here, the atmosphere feels different, the air is charged, the earth feels alive, and within every pilgrim, something stirs, the inner meaning of fire. The Agni Lingam does not only represent an external flame, it points inward. Fire is courage, the strength to face truth. Fire is discipline, the will to refine the self. Fire is illumination, the awakening that dissolves illusion. This temple teaches a powerful truth. Before the soul can rise, it must first burn. Burn fear, burn ego, burn ignorance. And from that sacred fire, a new awareness is born. As the flame flickers and ascends, the journey now turns toward the unseen force that carries it. Air. From the blazing transformation of fire, our journey now moves into the realm of the unseen, across the border into Andhra Pradesh. Here stands Srikalahasti, the sacred seat of the Vayu Lingam, the manifestation of air, the breath of life itself. Ancient texts revere this shrine as Dakshina Kailasam, the southern abode of Lord Shiva, a place believed to vibrate with the same sacred energy as Mount Kailash. Here, Shiva is worshipped as Kalahasteswara, and the Divine Mother as Gnanaprasunambika, she who awakens wisdom like a blossoming flower. The ultimate test of devotion, the story of Kanapa. Among the countless legends associated with this temple, one stands apart in raw intensity and devotion. Long ago lived Kanapa, a tribal hunter, untouched by ritual or scripture, yet overflowing with absolute love for Shiva. One day, as Kanapa worshipped the lingam, he saw something unimaginable. Blood was flowing from the deity's eye. Without hesitation, without fear, without calculation, Kanapa plucked out one of his own eyes and placed it upon the lingam. When blood began to flow from the other eye, he prepared to offer the second, marking the spot with his toe so he would not miss his aim in blindness. At that moment, Shiva appeared, stopping him. Overwhelmed by such devotion, Shiva restored Kanapa's sight and granted him moksha, liberation from the cycle of birth and death. To this day, Kanapa is remembered as one of the greatest devotees in the history of Shaivism, proof that devotion needs no form, only sincerity. The living mystery of air. The sanctum of Srikalahasti holds a phenomenon that continues to defy explanation. Oil lamps around the sanctum remain still, yet the lamp closest to the lingam flickers continuously, as though stirred by an unseen wind. No windows, no drafts, no visible airflow. Devotees believe this to be the presence of Vayu itself, the subtle breath of Shiva moving through space. Scientists have examined the structure, yet no definitive explanation has fully satisfied the mystery. A monument to the invisible, constructed by the Chola kings and later expanded by the Vijayanagara rulers, the temple rises dramatically between hills and river banks, its stone corridors echoing centuries of prayer. This is a temple dedicated not to what the eyes can see, but to what the soul can feel. The inner meaning of air Vayu is prana, the life force that sustains all beings. It animates the fluttering of leaves, the movement of clouds, and the silent rhythm of the human heart. Air teaches us a profound truth. That which is most essential is often the most invisible. As breath moves toward stillness, and movement dissolves into silence, the journey now approaches its final and subtlest destination, space. At last, the journey reaches its most subtle destination, beyond earth, beyond water, beyond fire and air, into space. We arrive at Chidambaram, home to the shrine of Akasha, the element that contains all others, yet remains untouched by any of them. Here, Lord Shiva is not worshipped merely as a lingam, he appears as Nataraja, the cosmic dancer, the dance of the universe. Every inch of the Chidambaram Nataraja temple resonates with rhythm. Here, Shiva performs the Ananda Tandava, the dance of bliss, a dance that does not entertain, but creates. With one movement, the universe comes into being. With another, it is sustained. And with the final gesture, it dissolves, only to be reborn again. This is not mythology alone. It is a philosophical statement about existence itself, that creation, preservation, and destruction are not separate acts, but part of a single, eternal rhythm. Architecture as cosmic language. The very name Chidambaram carries meaning. It translates to the space of consciousness, or an atmosphere clothed in awareness. Built and expanded under the Chola dynasty, who revered Nataraja as their family deity, the temple is a living synthesis of art, science, spirituality, and philosophy. Along its walls are carved the 108 Karanas, sacred dance postures described in the Natya Shastra. These are not decorative sculptures. They form the foundational grammar of Bharatanatyam, revealing that classical Indian dance was conceived as a spiritual science of movement, where the human body mirrors the cosmos. The greatest secret, Chidambara Rahasyam, yet the deepest mystery of Chidambaram lies not in form, but in absence. Within the innermost sanctum is the Chidambara Rahasyam, the secret of Chidambaram. Behind a sacred curtain, there is no idol, only empty space. This silence is intentional. It declares a truth few traditions dare to express. The ultimate reality is formless. It cannot be seen, touched, or contained. It can only be realized. Here, Shiva is not a figure to be worshipped. He is pure consciousness, limitless, unbound, infinite. The meaning of space. Akasha is freedom. It holds everything, yet clings to nothing. It allows all forms to arise, yet remains unchanged by them. Standing in Chidambaram, one does not merely see a temple. One enters a question. If the divine is emptiness, and emptiness holds everything, then where does the universe truly exist? Perhaps the answer is simple, not outside us, but within. Here, at the Temple of Space, the Pancha Bhoota journey reaches its silent conclusion, where matter dissolves into awareness, where form fades into infinity, and where the seeker is invited not to look outward, but inward. Taken together, the Pancha Bhoota temples form far more than a pilgrimage route. They form a map of life itself, a silent guide to understanding existence. From the moment of birth to the final dissolution into freedom, each element represents a stage of being. Earth is birth, the body, form, stability, and grounding. Water is growth, emotion, adaptability, relationship, and flow. Fire is transformation, will, struggle, awakening, and inner change. Air is movement, breath, vitality, intention, and motion through life. And space is liberation, the state beyond identity, beyond limitation, beyond form. As human beings, we move through these stages constantly, from the solidity of the body to the increasing subtlety of thought, breath, awareness, and finally, silence. And through every stage, Shiva remains the eternal witness, present in the ground we stand on, the water we drink, the fire that warms us, the breath we inhale, and the space that holds us. The Pancha Bhoota temples remind us of a truth deeply rooted in Indian thought. Spirituality has never been separate from nature. To worship Shiva is not to escape the world, but to honor the very elements that sustain life. This wisdom was not confined to temples or scriptures. Even Rabindranath Tagore reflected that the human mind is profoundly responsive to light, color, sound, rhythm, and movement, direct expressions of earth, water, fire, air, and space. Our emotions, too, rise and fall with these elements. When they are in harmony, we experience clarity, balance, and peace. When they are in conflict, we experience restlessness, anxiety, and suffering. In this way, the Pancha Bhoota concept is not merely metaphysical, it is psychological, explaining the patterns of the human mind. It is ecological, reminding us that harming nature is harming ourselves. And above all, it is profoundly human, offering a framework to live in balance with the world within us and the world around us. The temples do not demand belief. They offer recognition, a recognition that the same forces shaping stars and galaxies are quietly shaping our breath, our thoughts, and our lives. And when we understand this, the pilgrimage is no longer external. It becomes an inner journey, from matter to awareness, from noise to silence, from form to freedom. Perhaps the most astonishing aspect of the Pancha Bhoota Sthalam is not found in legend or symbolism, but in geography. When the locations of these 5 temples are examined through modern mapping, scholars and scientists encounter something deeply unsettling, a near-perfect alignment, stretching across hundreds of kilometers of South India, a straightness so precise that it challenges our assumptions about the technological limits of the ancient world. These temples were conceived and constructed long before the invention of compasses capable of measuring longitude, long before telescopes could chart the heavens, long before satellites could survey the Earth from above. And yet, the alignment exists. So the question remains, how did ancient builders achieve such accuracy? Was it coincidence, or the result of a sophisticated understanding of astronomy and geometry, knowledge passed through oral tradition and sacred architecture? Some researchers suggest awareness of solar paths, stellar positions, and seasonal cycles. Others point toward sensitivity to geomagnetic fields and natural energy corridors of the land, what ancient cultures across the world referred to as energy lines. No single explanation fully satisfies. And perhaps that is the point. What is undeniable is this. The ancients did not build only with stone. They built with attention, with observation, with consciousness. Each temple was positioned not merely to occupy space, but to resonate with it. They were conceived as energetic centers, places where architecture, landscape, sky, and human awareness were woven into a single, coherent design. The intention was not domination over nature, but harmony with it. And after thousands of years, through changing dynasties, climates, and civilizations, these temples still draw millions. Not because of force, but because of presence. They still feel alive, still grounded, still charged, still aligned. A silent testimony to an ancient wisdom that understood something we are only beginning to rediscover. That when human creation is aligned with cosmic order, it does not fade with time. It endures. For countless generations, pilgrims have walked this sacred path, guided not by maps alone, but by faith, memory, and an inner calling. They believed that to visit all 5 Panchabootham temples was to restore balance in the body, the mind, and the soul. Even today, that belief endures. Devotees continue to undertake the Panchabootham Yatra, moving step by step across South India, from Kanchipuram to Thiruvanaikaval, to Thiruvannamalai, to Srikalahasti, and finally to Chidambaram. On the surface, it is a journey across land, but in essence, it is a journey within. From the solidity of matter to the fluidity of emotion, from the fire of transformation to the breath of life, and ultimately to pure awareness. Each temple along this path comes alive through its own sacred rhythms and festivals, marking time not in dates, but in devotion. In Kanchipuram, Panguni Uthiram is celebrated beneath the ancient mango tree, honoring the divine union of Shiva and Parvati, rooted in the element of earth. At Thiruvanaikaval, Adipuram fills the corridors with devotion, celebrating Akhilandeshwari, the compassionate force of water that nurtures all worlds. In Thiruvannamalai, the night sky ignites during Kartigai Deepam, as the hill itself becomes a towering flame, a living symbol of fire and awakened consciousness. At Srikalahasti, Mahashivaratri is observed with grandeur, as prayers rise through the night, carried by air, breath, and surrender. And in Chidambaram, the temple resonates with movement and stillness alike during the Natyanjali festival, where dancers from across the world offer their art as prayer, their bodies becoming instruments of space and rhythm. These are not isolated celebrations. They are living traditions, rituals that have survived empires, invasions, and centuries of change. Festivals that continue to bind humanity to the five elements, to nature, to Shiva, and to the cosmic order itself. In walking this journey, pilgrims do more than visit temples. They step into a stream of time, one that began long before them and will continue long after. A reminder that spirituality here is not frozen in the past, it is alive, flowing, breathing, dancing, just like the elements it honors. In the end, the story of the Pancha Bhoota Sthalam is not merely a story about temples, it is a story about balance, a reminder that the divine is not distant or separate, not hidden in the heavens or confined to stone, but present in every breath we take, in every heartbeat, in every grain of dust beneath our feet. Earth offers us stability, the grounding that allows life to stand and endure. Water teaches us to flow, to adapt, to soften, to heal, and to renew. Fire calls us to transform, to burn away ignorance, fear, and limitation. Air sustains us, the invisible force that animates every moment of life, and space grants us freedom, the vast silence in which all things arise, exist, and dissolve. Together, these five elements form the foundation of the cosmos, and the architecture of the human soul. To stand before the Pancha Bhoota temples is to stand at a rare intersection, where science meets spirituality, where art meets philosophy, where devotion meets mystery. These sacred spaces do not shout their wisdom, they whisper it, a truth that has echoed across civilizations and centuries. All creation is sacred. Nothing exists outside the divine. Liberation, they remind us, is not found by rejecting the world, but by seeing the sacred within it. In stone and silence, in flame and flowing water, in breath and boundless space, the temples leave us with a final invitation, not to escape existence, but to awaken within it. The Pancha Bhoota temples, five sacred shrines etched across the landscape of South India, five elemental forces woven into the fabric of life itself, five eternal truths carved in stone, silence, and spirit. From the grounded stillness of Kanchipuram to the flowing grace of Thiruvanaikaval, from the blazing heart of Thiruvannamalai to the unseen breath of Srikalahasti, and finally, to the boundless expanse of Chidambaram. This journey reminds us of a timeless truth. To know Shiva is to know existence itself. He is the earth beneath our feet, the fire within our will, the air that moves through every breath, the water that sustains and renews, and the space that holds all things, yet clings to none. And when these five forces come into harmony, when matter, movement, and consciousness align, the ancients glimpsed what they called moksha, liberation within life itself. Gentle pause. If this journey awakened something within you, if these ancient mysteries stirred your curiosity or your spirit, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who walks this path of wonder with you. Because many more stories remain hidden in stone, silence, and sky, and the journey into the sacred has only just begun.